Hey, what's up, everyone? I am Scott, aka Spin Scott, and this is the Contested Reality. Today, we're going to be going over a bit of a different topic of conversation. Usually, I talk about the Sorcery TCG cards, but today I'm going to be talking about how to protect, preserve, and really store those cards and make sure that you are able to best keep them in the condition that you would like them in, which is as good as possible. So, whether you've pulled your cards from packs and they were packed fresh, or maybe you bought them as singles, or maybe you have an old card collection that you just want to update or upgrade your storage solutions for. I get a lot of questions about these things, both when it comes to cards through this channel, and people see some of the things that I'm using in the videos that I've posted so far, and then also in my other world, which is record collecting. There's a lot of synergies, really, whenever you're collecting anything or storing or long-term preserving anything that is a physical object. There are certain rules that you want to follow and different types of materials that you want to use, and definitely some that you want to stay away from as well. And so I'm going to be going over some of that today. Again, these are freestyle videos, so I'm just going to be showing a lot of things that I use. Feel free to do a deep dive yourself, do a quick search online if you want to look deeper into this. A couple of disclaimers though. Number one, the products that I'm talking about none of this was provided to me for free. All of these were retail purchases that I paid full price for, and so there's no sponsorships or nothing like that going on here. These are things that I bought that I've tried. And then also, probably not going to mention too many brand names here, but if I do mention a brand, it's not an official endorsement. It's simply sharing the product or the brand that I use that I'm currently liking for these types of goods. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to open up the trusty treasure box, and I'm shocked that I've been able to pretty much fit everything in here. That's pretty cool, everything we're going to talk about today. And the order of operations that I'm going to go through is I'm pretty much going to start with the products that touch the cards themselves, so your different types of sleeves and then penny sleeves and things like that. Then I'm going to go into the top loaders and then talk about the various types of boxes. And if that wasn't enough, then we're going to talk about the different types of boxes that you can put your boxes inside of for longer term storage. And so before I launch into that, I want to take a sidestep real quick and make my usual recommendation. Make sure that you are following and subscribed to the official Sorcery sites and socials. On YouTube and Instagram, that's going to be Sorcery TCG. And then on Facebook, that is going to be the Sorcery Contested Realm official group. Getting a lot of great information from them. I just love the cadence of how they do the little spoilers about things to come, but not spilling the candy in the lobby on everything that's coming. So especially with Arthurian Legends, anyone that knows Sorcery or who's gotten into it, whether you got into it during alpha or you just discovered it in November of last year like I did during the beta pre-launch, or you just discovered it today, you've probably heard of the next forthcoming set, Arthurian Legends. And man, every tidbit of information that comes out just like force multiplies the excitement with that. I just can't wait to see what they have in store with the set. But anyway, let's get into these storage and archival solutions. So first we're going to talk about the trusty penny sleeve. Honestly, it's probably the least exciting product we'll talk about today. The penny sleeve is just a sleeve that's going to fit over your card. It's a generous fit, so not a tight fit like the perfect fits, but I've tried many different brands of the penny sleeves, and I will mention a brand on this because I use the BCW ones. They're just the standard fit, 100 sleeves, crystal clear, acid free. I'll talk about materials in a minute for plastics, but yeah, the BCWs work fine, but really I haven't found a bad sleeve as long as it's not one of the bad plastics, quote unquote, which we'll talk about. So your penny sleeves is really kind of the first line of defense when you want to protect your cards. And again, yeah, there's so many different brands that you can try. BCW works for me. And I pretty much put with Sorcery any of the elites or the uniques that I pull out, or any of the foils. I usually just pop into these right while I'm doing my openings, and then I will move on to, upgrading that storage, or maybe even pulling them out if they don't have the value, or if I'm just putting them into another type of storage box. So penny sleeves, there we go. Now these are the soft plastic sleeves. Another kind of soft plastic sleeve that you will find is the perfect fits. Now, these are a little bit more complicated, particularly with Sorcery Beta, because there is a bit of a variance in the cut size of the cards. And so some of the name brand perfect fits that I tried with Beta, and I saw a lot of comments about this early on the Discord and some other sites as well, some other forums. I think there was a Reddit thread or two about it too, where basically some of the cards were really, really, really tight fitting to the point where they almost bowed a little bit. Now, the theme of this video, and really when collecting and preserving, is that you don't want to if you're trying to protect something, you don't want to damage it in the process. That's kind of, it defeats the purpose, right? And so I tried 5 or 6 different brands of perfect fits, and all of them were really, really tight fitting to the point where I just didn't want to use them. And when I started playing Sorcery after collecting for a while, I really wanted to do the double sleeve thing. Just couldn't figure out how to get it to fit right. And so finally, funny enough, I ordered a card off of TCG, a single off TCG Player, and it came in, and it was in the perfect fit. And that was this. These are Pro Support Accessories Perfect Fits. I bought them. You can get like 200 or 400 of them on Amazon for a pretty decent price. Again, I paid full retail for these and all of that, like I said, but these are just ones that happen to fit very, very well, and I've had great consistency with them. So just be careful if you're using the perfect fits that you're not shoving a card in there so tight that it's going to bow the card. The plastic will probably stretch a little bit and likely won't damage the card, but you want to be careful with that. All right, so I'm not going to talk too much about the gaming stuff, but I will say, since I use those perfect fits, and I mentioned double sleeving, that I also use these Dragon Shields. I just use the clear ones. I've not tried any other brands of the outer play sleeves, so I can't tell you how they compare to the other ones, but these have worked great. I've had a couple that split, but I think that's normal when you're doing the shuffling, and I shuffle gently. But, you know, that's not more for preservation, that's more for playing with the cards, which I'm not going to touch too much on today. So let's see. Before we go further, I do want to talk about plastics real quick, because there are some that you definitely want to prefer and others that you really want to stay away from. So when you're looking at any type of archival storage, whatever material you're storing it in, whether it is paper, cardboard, plastic, or anything else, you want to make sure that you're cognizant of the elements and also the types of plastic. So as most of you can guess, there's many different elements that can affect preserving materials. And so, I mean, there's temperature, there's heat and cold, or rapid fluctuations in temperature, there's humidity, there is pressure, there's time, there's various different effects that, you know, you have more than one of them, and it can amplify the degradation of the product that you're trying to store. Now, if you can keep everything relatively normalized and use the right materials, keep it in a very consistent, friendly type environment from an atmospheric perspective, then you can store stuff indefinitely, like they do at the Library of Congress, and so for true archival storing for hundreds or thousands of years potentially, right? And so you might be saying, well, you know, trading cards, like I'm going to have this thing for an hour and then I'm probably going to trade it, or I'm not going to keep it. And so you might not want to go overboard. You might just want to use an economical solution, and you don't really care so much about the material. But let's face it, sometimes you buy something, it's worth something, you want to store it, and then you put it in a box, you forget about it. 10, 20, maybe 30 years later, you come back. If you're lucky, the thing that you stored away became very valuable, and then you take it out, only to find out that it yellowed, or it faded, or it stuck to the plastic, or some other type of damage, and you're just heartbroken because you really took care to preserve something and store it the right way. Ended up the materials killed it, right? So we're going to talk real quick about the different types of plastics here, and these plastics apply to the sleeves, as well as your top loaders, and really any plastics that you're going to be enclosing your cards in, directly or indirectly. And so the ones that you want to stay away from, the worst one is PVC. Now this applies not only to cards and paper products, but also to vinyl records, and I can share a quick brief story there. So if you've ever seen picture sleeves or picture discs, which is the records that have, it's actually like a colored picture on it, those used to, at least in the 80s and early 90s, would come in PVC. That's the real rigid, hard plastic sleeve. And you store those away even in a good environment, and guess what? You pull them out 10, 20 years later, and the record can stick to the plastic. The PVC sort of fuses and off gases, and chemicals leach into the record, and it will create a foam or some sort of almost like an aura over the record, which unfortunately degrades the sound quality. And so, you know, I've had some of those. A long time ago, I replaced all the PVCs with polypropylene or polyethylene sleeves, which I'll talk about. But with cards, you may have actually seen this firsthand in the trading card world as well. If you've happened to bought an older binder maybe off of eBay, or you found one at a thrift store or something, and it was a very old binder, and you open it up and the binder pages are kind of stuck together, not because of the substance, but because they're just old and they've kind of fused together. And then you go to take the cards out, and the cards are a little bit warped, and maybe some of the cards, if they were glossy cards, might even be stuck to the pages. Those were probably PVC pages. So again, they're toxic to your collectibles. Don't use PVC. The plastics that you want to seek out are polyester, polypropylene, and polyethylene. Now, most of what I find around with this type of stuff, if I go to buy storage containers and things like that, is it's got a double P, so a PP on there, or a code 05, which means polypropylene. That's going to be great for storage. Again, polyethylene is relatively common as well. That's a PE. There's high density and low density. I'm not really sure that matters per se when you're storing, but the high density is going to be your harder containers. And so that's what you want to look for. So yeah, just make sure you look at the plastic type, and that's always going to be typically inside of that little recycling code on the bottom of the container, or on your sleeves it will say something like this: no PVC, acid free. That's what you want. No PVC, no acids that can leach and ruin your cards. Okay, so we're going to talk about top loaders next. So these, now back in the day when I bought top loaders, they were, I mean, you just bought a 50 pack, 30 pack, 100 pack of these, and they were great. You put your cards in, you have them in your penny sleeve first, you double sleeve, you put it in here, sleeve, top loader, toss it in the box, come back a million years later and everything's fine, right? And they were always straight, and I never remember them being bowed or warped or anything else. Well, fast forward to today, I'm just checking my time here. So fast forward to today, or about, I don't know, 6 months ago, when I started buying a lot of top loaders, and I started buying the larger packs, and unfortunately I found that some of them were bowed to the point, or warped to the point where I didn't feel comfortable putting my cards in them. Now, you pull a card out of a pack, typically it's straight, right? You pull a foil out, typically that's straight too, but over time you might see some bowing, or I forget the funny term that they like, the potato chips, like it will start to curl, right? You don't want that for your card, so you put it in a more rigid top loader to keep it straight, right? So last thing you want to do is put it in a top loader that is bowed or that is warped and potentially ruin your cards. That's what can happen. So you're not going to be able to see this so much on the camera, so I'll make sure to show a very high detail close-up on the screen here. But when you buy a pack of top loaders, plastic ones, it never hurts to take a couple out. Now, when you take them out together, they're going to look perfect because they're together. But if you flip them around, you'll be able to see if there was any concave or concave or convex warpage here. So I don't know if you can see that. These are actually pretty bad. I mean, they bow out. They separate like this. I've seen ones that separate that much, and I threw those away. Now, I tried 5 or 6 different brands of these and struggled to find ones where 80+% of the top loaders weren't just warped to the point where I wasn't comfortable using them. The ones that I did find work really well are the smaller quantity. They're the Profits, and so even with the larger quantities, I still saw some warpage, but in the smaller quantities, the 50 packs, the quality seemed to be very consistent. Now, I don't know whether, you know, they're packaging the 100 pack, maybe they come off the production line and they haven't fully cooled and they get squeezed into that pack and they warp. Who knows what goes on? Can't speculate. I've never been to the factory, but I can tell you that the Profit ones in the smaller quantity sizes tend to work really well. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I might be a bit overkill on this. Maybe you can put a card in a slightly bowed top loader and it won't damage, but I figure if you're going to invest in protecting your stuff, why not get something that you know is going to take care of your stuff, right? So enough about the outer or the inner sleeves. Let's move on to boxes, and I'm going to accelerate the pace here a little bit. So there's really 3 different types of boxes that I use. This one actually has cards in it, so it's got a little bit of weight. It's full. You've all seen these. This is the traditional long box. Now, these white bleached cardboard, just generic boxes, typically are not acid-free. And so, again, acid in the paper and chemicals in the paper over time, they do have the ability to leach into the product that you're storing. And then there may even be acid in the product that you're storing. For example, when you talk about if you collected old newspapers, for example, right? Now, newspaper, the ink and the paper, they weren't meant really to be saved. They were fast consumption, read once, toss it away. So fairly high acid content in newspaper back in the day. And so that's why you'll notice that if you preserved newspapers, you take them out. I have some from when Kennedy was president that a relative collected some of that stuff, gave it to me, and it's fascinating to look at. Early space travel or the first trip to the moon. They're amazing, but the paper is very brittle and it's very yellowed because of the acid and the other chemicals that were in the inks. Now, Fortunately, when it comes to trading cards, you know, like Sorcery uses a very, very high quality cardboard, high quality inks, and I would imagine that if left alone but taken care of and put in the right environment and the right storage, preservation materials, that they're gonna look good forever, right? Now, of course, if you put the wrong chemicals near something, that can change, right? So these boxes, I've got nothing bad to say about them. They're the general boxes. You know, they come flat, you fold them, and yeah, you can store a ton of cards in these. I use these for bulk. If I was gonna put this in storage for 20 years or something like that, I would not use this kind of box because, again, it's not acid free, and I want to make sure that even the cards on the edges that are touching the walls of the box, or maybe the edges of the cards themselves are touching the edge of the box, I just want to make sure that there's nothing that's going to degrade the quality or the longevity of the cards. So these boxes, again, are fine for bulk. That's what I use them for. But the ones that I use for my collection are these. Now, they are significantly more expensive. A couple dollars a piece at least, maybe even a little bit more than that. Again, I'm not going to talk too much about the pricing because I don't know where you're watching from, and might be different currencies, and you can find deals and things like that. But this is a gray, archival gray blue board that is buffered, which means it's not going to leach or accept leached chemicals from whatever is inside the box, either way. And then it is also completely acid-free archival material. So you just see, I mean, when you saw me pick this up, this is pretty thin and kind of bends a little bit. This is a lot more rigid, almost snaps together. I mean, these are really nice boxes, and these will fit 800 to 1,000 trading cards, and in theory, or pretty much in practice, although I haven't lived 100 years with my cards, so I can't say firsthand, but these are designed to put your cards in, and they will just last indefinitely. Not degrade, not discolor, not fade, not turn yellow, you know, not warp or anything like that, as long as you store them in there. You don't want to pack them in super tight, but you want to leave just a slight breathing room. So yeah, that's these boxes, and I even like how they close too. They're just nice and square, so if you're stacking them, that works well too. Now, moving on up the line, we're going to talk about, and this was the question I've gotten a lot, what are these black boxes that I store my top loaders in? And if you haven't had a chance to watch my other video series here, it's actually a 10-part series called something like the Sorcery Beta Grand Tour, where I go through every single card, non-foil card in beta, and I'm pulling all of those out of these boxes. Now, these are unbranded, and I actually got these from a relative who worked in library preservation, probably why I'm also really interested in this stuff. But these boxes are made from true buffer board. They are acid-free, lignin-free. There's a list of things that they're free of, right? And can't even remember it all. But they are a very nice cardstock here, and they are metal reinforced. And these are the types of boxes that you'll find if you go to look at a card catalog, or if you go to a library and you want to look at stuff, microfilm, things like that, that have been stored away, or film negatives or things that have been stored since the 50s, 30s, I mean, for a long time, right? This is the kind of material you want for that. So again, it might be a bit overkill for trading cards, but, you know, again, if you want to protect your stuff, you know, the sky's the limit as to what you can do, right? So anyway, I use these boxes. I just love how they fit the top loaders in there. If you don't pack them too tightly, which I've accidentally done a couple of times, you can really just, you can flip through and pull these out. It holds them up like, oh, there's Cerberus and Chains. See, there we go. Love that card. And yeah, you can store those in here. Now, if you're saving bulk, this is way over the top to do, but what I like to do is collect an art set of these cards, which means basically one of each card, and I will put them in just the generic penny sleeve, like Captain Baldassar right here, and then I will put them inside of the top loader and then inside of these archival boxes. And I like that they have lids, so you don't have to worry about kind of keeping to push like the hinge lids like these. You just pop this off, you can look at it. Now, none of this so far is waterproof or moisture proof, so you don't want to store these in a basement or in a garage. Really, you don't want to store anything that's of value, that's a collectible, in a garage, basement, attic, anywhere, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, where those temperatures and the humidity levels are going to change at all, let alone rapidly, right? So, but yeah, that's the boxes and the sleeves and the top loaders. We've gotten all that out of the way. Fantastic. You can also keep them in a treasure chest too, but hey, that's more for aesthetic purposes for the channel. So, next up, we are going to look at two different types of plastic boxes. So this is just a standard Sterilite container. Now again, I looked for something that would fit my long boxes and my archival boxes the right way, depending on the set. There's an unlimited number of sizes you can find, but again, this has the triangle with the number 5, so that is going to be polypropylene, and it's got the double P number or letter on the back. So true polypropylene here. When you buy any storage containers like these, and this one I will kind of covering myself up here, but yeah, it's just got the snap lids, and this comes off like that. I mean, not much you can say about a plastic container, right? However, any type of plastic is going to do what is called off-gassing. So whatever chemicals were used when they produced the plastic and molded the box, those chemicals can off-gas over time. Some of them might be harmless. Some of the off-gases might be volatile organic compounds, VOCs. You definitely don't want to breathe those in. And you really want to give something, a plastic, time to off-gas a little bit. It's not necessary with the sleeves of the top loaders, but with the boxes, what I like to do is I will take these and I'll stick them outside under the sun on a nice hot summer day. When it's not too hot, you don't want it to be very, very scorching hot, or put it on blacktop where it can melt. But you want to put it in direct sunlight because the UV will help, and the heat will help to accelerate the off-gassing. And so you can test this yourself. Buy a new container, keep it sealed for 2 days, open it up, kind of don't put your face in it, but just you'll be able to smell the chemicals, right? Or if you put it outside maybe, or put it out in a garage or a shed for a week or two, basically the environment you don't want to put it in long term is the same environment that's going to start to break down the chemicals and allow it to off-gas more quickly. So after pre-treating your boxes, which I do, I'll put them outside in the sun for a couple days like that, and then I'll leave them out just to kind of air out a little bit. And then you can put your stuff in it. Now, it's a good idea to make sure that if you are storing in plastic, that every 3 months, 6 months, something like that, at least once a year, something like that, you can do, you'll want to open the box, just allow fresh air, allow it to breathe a little bit, right? Any chemicals that have built up in there over time. Again, it's the right kind of plastic, so it's not going to destroy your cards, but, things can build up over time. So just air it out a little bit. And then you also want to make sure, and this is more of a personal preference based on my own beliefs of how this stuff works. You may want to double check it yourself, but it would make sense to me to use a container that can breathe slightly, because if you use an IP-rated submersible type of container, like a Pelican case or something like that, you're keeping 100% of moisture out, but you're also keeping any moisture that is inside in the box. Now, you could use, a desiccant or one of those moisture-absorbing packets and all of that. Haven't gotten into that with cards, but I like to allow my boxes to breathe a little bit. So these types of containers where the lid fits on, but it's not snapping on all sides is great for that. Now, that said, I do have some boxes and some things that really aren't of any value and probably won't be of value, empty card boxes, things like that I don't want to store in my main living space, and I want to keep them in a basement or in a less desirable area that might be susceptible to, an unfortunate flood or something like that. I mean, those things unfortunately happen, right? It's unpreventable. That's why they're called accidents, right? But these types of containers here, these are IP67 rated. You can actually put this underwater or spray it with a hose and no water or moisture will get in. It's got like this rubber seal on it here. I'm going to store some things in this, but again, I'm going to be careful because it doesn't vent any air or off gas at all. And so, you want to make sure that you're not kind of locking your stuff up into a sealed environment that might, over a long period of time, become an issue. So anyway, that walks you through all of the storage solutions and sleeves and top loaders, boxes, cases, everything else that I'm using. I hope that was useful information for you. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I'm happy to answer. I will put links to a couple of these products in the comments, although my hyperlinks don't seem to be working in my comments or in the descriptions in YouTube, so you might have to cut the URL and paste it into your browser. So anyway, final thing for the video, like I always do on this channel, is I highlight my current favorite sorcery Contested Realm card, and right now that is the Beta Foil Mountain Giant. So here you go. Hopefully not too much, and there's the back, the beautiful full art on this. Hopefully you're not getting too much glare. This card I've loved ever since I started playing the game, because I started with the Earth Precon, the Geomancer Precon, and actually yesterday was Earth Day, so I celebrated that by playing against my opponent using my classic Geomancer Precon, which I've slightly enhanced with some mixed terras and a few other things. And anyway, this card I pulled right at the end of the game. It is a power 8 minion. It also costs 8 mana to bring out and 4 Earth Affinity, and it occupies Foresight. So just a massive, massive minion to bring out. I love the artwork. I'm not gonna lie, when I pulled this out of a pack, I saw that goldish color here, and I got really excited that it was gonna be a Philosopher's Stone foil, which I have yet to pull. But yeah, I pulled it. It was the Mountain Giant, and I just love the artwork. It's just massive. This guy does not look very friendly, so hopefully if he's in your deck, you get to bring him out, because again, 8 mana, that's going to take a while to bring out. But anyway, that does it for this video. I am going to do another one very soon. I'm going to be talking about a small subset of cards with a particular attribute that is very useful that I believe is going to grow in Sorcery. But other than that, thank you so much for watching the video here, and thank you very much for subscribing. I think I'm approaching or have exceeded 50 subscribers on this little channel. Again, this is just a side channel for me, but it's growing, and I love that. I've got so much more to talk about, and I appreciate you being here. So thanks again, and if you haven't subscribed, feel free to click the button, leave a comment, click that like, and whatever you want to do there, and I will see you at the next one. Cheers!